Hello, welcome back to the Viking Code School demo for HTML in Action. In this video, we're going to take a look at forms. So we have a form here. It's got a lot of inputs here, some field sets, radio buttons, drop down, text areas, checkboxes, all this good stuff. And we can submit it. And it actually doesn't let me because it's saying that I have to fill out this field. So let's take a look at what is going on here. What is the code that produces this lovely form? So you can see here, first off, that we have an input with required on it, and that's what's giving me that message and not letting me submit the form. But what are the parts of the form? Let's start from the outside and go toward the center. So we have the form element. The action is where this information is going to get sent. So when we submit the form, there's going to be a bunch of data that goes somewhere. Action is saying, submit this data with a GET request. If you don't understand exactly what that means, just know that basically GET is used to get information, and the information that we send through the form is going to be available through a query string. So if you've ever seen this kind of stuff in the address bar, this is a query string, and this is how our information would be sent in the form submission. So moving on, we have a field set. Field sets, as you can see, they separate parts of the form. Fields that are in a set on their own. So you could say, this is a field set for credentials. This is a field set for the name of the person. This is a field set for their gender, and a field set for profile information. So very easy to organize things with field sets, and they're usually accompanied by a legend in which you'll put the general name that relates to this field set. Labels. Labels do exactly what they sound like. They label an input. You can set the for attribute of a label, and that will tell the HTML parser that basically this label is associated with this input. In order for this to take effect, usually you should have an ID here as well, saying something like email. Notice that when I click on this this label now, it actually gives me focus to the input, and this is actually a good good thing to point out. It does not give me focus for the password when I click the label. So the ID is important here, that it matches the for of the label in order for that functionality to work. So you can see this has a type of email. This has a type of password, which is what gives this those dots. It hides my input when you set the type to password. Same thing for password confirm. Moving on, same thing here. We have some text inputs. The placeholder attribute is what allows me to have this last name text in there that disappears when I start typing. The name attribute is important. The name attribute is actually what the name of the data, the key under which the data will be sent. So if I fill this out and I say ASDF at ASDF and then I submit, you'll see that email ASDF and then this encoded value here. Email is the name of what is getting sent, the key. So that is the name attribute and its purpose. Moving along to radio buttons. Once again, radio buttons, it's also good to set the ID of your radio button to gender, or whatever the ID of the label is. So that way, when I reload this page, if I click mail, you can see that it's not going back and forth here. It should be. Maybe if I do gender-f, gender-m, that should work. There we go. So in this case, we actually want the for and the ID to be different here because we want them to be different values. But the name remains gender because we would want this to be sent to the server as gender. Moving on to profile, we have a couple of different form inputs here. We have select options. So the syntax for this is that we have a select dropdown. We want to give the select the name of whatever it is that we want the data to be called, and then options have a text value in the content of the option. But the value that gets to the sent to the server when we click submit is going to be whatever is in the value attribute of the option. Text area, a little bit different here. Same thing with the name, placeholder. Those attributes are all going to have a similar effect. But when you actually want to set like a default value, you would actually put text here. You can see that it actually puts the text inside the text box or the text area when I reload the page. Lastly but not leastly, we have checkboxes, and they have a type of checkbox. You'll see that the name here has these brackets. You don't need to understand this quite yet, but just know that when since it has brackets, it means that I can actually click multiple values here, and it will send all of them for me. So if I were to actually, I submit this, it's still looking for that sign. So if I submit this and then I go in here and I actually take a look at what was sent, you see that under hobbies right here, we actually have multiple values. So those are HTML forms.